Hi, welcome to the IEP of Fitness, making fitness accessible for individuals with neurodiversity. This is the podcast where accessibility meets fitness. I'm Karen Hurley, and each week we break down barriers, redefine ability, and explore how movement can be personalized, empowering, and truly accessible for every athlete. Whether you're a parent, coach, therapist, doctor, or an athlete yourself, you're in the right place because every athlete deserves a plan, a team, and the opportunity to thrive. So, no matter your vision, fitness can help get you there. Let's get started. Well, we are so lucky today. We have Hannah Gould from Voices Color Yoga. So, some programs begin with a simple idea that every person deserves to feel safe, seen, and connected in their own body. For Hannah Gould, that became a mission. As the program director of Voices of Color Yoga, Hannah helps lead a program dedicated to expanding access to yoga, mindfulness, and healing practices for individuals and communities who have often been underrepresented in traditional wellness spaces. Voices of Color Yoga was created to build community through movement, breath, and reflection, offering mindfulness programming and leadership development opportunities that empower participants to reconnect with themselves and others. The program emphasizes accessibility, awareness, and creating environments where every participant feels welcome and heard. At the center of that work is Hannah. Welcome.
Thank you, Karen.
So we're so excited. I want to hear more. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Absolutely.
Voices through color and yoga. That would be great.
Sure. So just to clarify, it's Voice Colors Yoga.
You.
And actually that's a common misperception. So, and the little story behind Voice Colors Yoga is actually a story about my partner in this endeavor, Eve McGargle, and her son, Billy. So Billy is a nonverbal autistic communicator, and Eve was looking for a yoga teacher for her son about 20 years ago when he was 16. And we were connected with the same yoga studio, and she knew that I had a background in special education. I had been a middle school special educator. I had shifted at that point to working in more of a physical modality, a gym-based sort of group counseling, social skills setting. But Billy was a new challenge for me, and Eve became an incredible guide and mentor for me. And the name Voice Colors is actually a nonprofit run by Eve and her husband, Matt. And it is an arts and wellness initiative for autistic adults. So one thing that happens as students are coming up through school when they have a lot of different learning needs, different emotional and social regulation needs, is they may be getting a lot of adjunct services that are taking them actually away from things like art and music and PE. And they are individuals who thrive and live in the world of movement, sound, sensation, color. So what Eve is striving to do through Voice Colors is really to take the way that she has educated Billy, which is through structured visual systems, and apply that to all of these cool arts and wellness initiatives. And the first one to really launch into the world and gain traction is Voice Colors Yoga. So I am the program director for Voice Colors Yoga, very much a collaboration between myself and Eve. And over the 20 years that I've worked with Billy, we really codified a curriculum for yoga as well as an approach that is rooted in structure, rooted in visual communication systems, and rooted in creating safety, grounding in the nervous system, safe connection with self, teacher, and others. And that allows us a lot of freedom to explore and play. I'm a big believer in sort of freedom within structure. You create the structure, you create the stability, you create the predictability, and then it's like, now let's have fun. And my classes are a lot of fun. that journey with Eve over the 20 years has also led us to develop a 30-hour professional development training, which is for yoga teachers, but also for fitness instructors, OTs, PTs, really anybody working with any neurodivergent learner across the lifespan, kids through older adults, who's working in that physical modality. And we've run the teacher training, I believe, 8 times. We've trained over 45 teachers at this point, and we're slowly getting our program up and running throughout Metro West Boston, as well as here and there throughout the country, since our training is online. So that's the journey.
That's great.
The journey continues. As far as I'm concerned, like we're just getting started with, as far as taking this work from our small community to getting it out in a broader way.
Fantastic. Now, I love how you talk about structure, a curriculum, and having fun. Because I know sometimes when I come in to coach a class that I have a plan and I have a goal and I throw it out the door and I have to laugh, smile, and embrace the messy. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you kind of alluded to that you have a structure and you have a curriculum, but sometimes it doesn't always fall neatly within that. And I think that's important because parents can say, that sounds great, but that's not going to work for my child.
Yeah. So I'm going to share a quote with you from my first yoga teacher, who I did my original 30 or 200-hour training with, I don't even know, 2005, I think. Her name was Judy Baker. And one of the things she shared with us that stuck in my brain was, always have a plan, but never let your plan ruin your class. And that's the dance right there, isn't it? For all of us working in this modality, is have a plan, because we don't want to just be sort of chaotic, but we can't let the plan ruin our class, because the individuals who walk in the door walk in with whatever energy state and agenda and access to skills that they have in that moment. So my plan looks like this. I'll share a few pieces of our visual curriculum today. Everything's set up on a schedule board. So my students walk in, this is one of the first things they learn to look at. What are we doing today? And these little tabs don't have a lot of meaning yet to us, but my students learn pretty quickly that this color coding lets them know exactly where their bodies are going to be throughout class. So we can see these 3 red pages here. We have a whole color coding system for body positions. So my students learn, oh, it's red. I need to stand up and get ready. We're going to be starting standing. And motor planning can be definitely a real challenge for our folks. So that's where I want to start, is have my students learn to reference the color. Oh, it's blue. How do I get ready for blue? Reference or learn this color coding, and they learn this very quickly for the most part. Oh, I'm going to sit tall. Now I'm ready. And I would say for many students within the first weeks of class, that clicks. And they're referencing the color and I'm ready for blue. I'm ready. Come on, everybody stand up. It's red. It's like they're taking ownership of that piece. So that's where I think the plan's really important. It develops independence. It develops confidence. They don't walk in, always needing to be prompted by the teacher for what's happening. They know what's happening. They know where the visual information is. They know how to organize themselves for what's coming next. Once we're doing that page, like let's say that red page is balance sequence A. So we've got our star balance. They know we're going to switch sides. Second, we've got our knee up, then we'll switch sides. Third, we've got our airplane, then we'll switch sides. They know they're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then that's going to be finished. There's going to be a little transition time to move, regulate, chit chat, whatever they've got to do. And where we play is within the context of this page. So I might teach this real straightforward star balance the first time we teach it. And I generally stick with the same curriculum pages for a month. But week 2, let's add some arm movement to our star balance. What if we add some huggers? Maybe this week we're going to try a dynamic balance. Can we come in and out? Can we come in and out? So sort of building more freedom and play within that structure of we're doing the pose, we're doing the page is on the schedule, we're not going off into chaos, but while we're here in whatever pose it is, we get to play. And I also like to bring in different sensory experiences. So we might do things where we've got squeeze balls in our hands during a pose, or where we're reaching to touch a pool noodle during a pose, or where we're playing with instability and standing on a Bosu ball during a pose. But it's still star balance, and it's still on the schedule, and it's still read and familiar. So that's sort of how I play. And then, of course, there are days when the whole plan needs to be adjusted because we're not going to get through that much material. It was a slow transition. And I just make those changes visually. I just communicate, hey, you know what, my friends? We're moving a little slower today. I'm going to make a choice to take these 2 pages, and we're going to do them next week. And then I'm going to follow through and make sure we do them next week, because I have students who will remember that and hold me to it for sure. So that's sort of how I think about play within structure.
Yeah. I love that you implement presumed competency, because whether they're verbal or nonverbal or minimally verbal, you're still communicating that we're going to do those next week, because maybe someone who is nonverbal understands and could become dysregulated because the schedule changed. So I think that's really important. I think many people unfortunately do not presume competency of individuals with neurodiversity because of various communication styles or dysregulation. How do you incorporate the concept of presumed competency into your classes?
Yeah, for me, that really is rooted in communication. So on the one hand, that means viewing my students as communicators. There is this wild disconnect that I see sometimes when folks are nonverbal communicators. There can be this assumption that they don't need information, they don't have questions, they're just going to kind of go along with the flow. And actually, kind of like all of us, they like to know what's going to be happening in their lives and when, and what they're going to be expected to do, and when changes are going to happen. It's not only a this changed, there can actually be a why because, an explanation. So part of presuming competence for me means giving my students that information and knowing that they deserve it, but I'm responsible for giving it in a way that they can access. So if they're nonverbal communicators, I'm going to be using visual schedules, I'm going to be using social stories, I'm going to be writing and reviewing notes. Visual communication is huge because, for one thing, it's not a moment in time. Like if I just say something and you were not processing at that moment, or you were not attending at that moment, you missed it. And a lot of students, I think, miss a lot of verbal information, and then they go through life feeling a little bit blindsided. Like, wait, what? You didn't tell me that. I didn't know that. If it's visual, it stays. It stays there. And when their attention is ready, they can reference it. And if they have some anxiety, as I do, I am an anxious being by wiring. Sometimes I might need to check my calendar on my phone 6 times a day. Not because I don't really know. I just kind of want that little organizing, confirmation, affirmation. So when we have students who ask the same question and they're perseverating, give them information that stays, that they can reference themselves 6 times, 8 times, 27 times. And also I find that that gets me as the teacher out of the mix, because I might have to deliver information that is not happy information. Like, there's no yoga next week, I'm going to be on vacation, or no, your friend Joe isn't in class today, he's out sick. And I like them to be able to process that information like it's between you and the information. I'm out of the mix. Don't get upset with me. I'm here to support you. If you're upset, you're allowed to be upset. We can work through this together. But, this is the information. It is what it is, my friend. Process, read, we can talk about it. And when it comes to teaching yoga, that presuming competence means I know my students have a right to visual communication supports. I know that with the right guidance, they have the ability to learn to independently reference those supports. They're not just there in the room, modeling, pointing, showing, modeling, being that visual guide. And I know they can make progress wherever they're walking in the room from. I may have a student who, for example, has never been on their hands and knees because some of our neurodivergent individuals didn't crawl. Getting into table pose might be a big deal. But I'm never going to write that off and be like, oh, this student doesn't do hands and knees. We're going to get there. We're going to break it down. We're going to make it a journey. And that's one of the things I love about yoga. I've been practicing 30 years and I'm still learning and I'm still making progress. You're never done with yoga. So we can start where we are. We can progress at our own speed and the sky is the limit from there.
I think that's wonderful. I work with one athlete and he's a Gestalt communicator and he uses Disney clips, and he had a great day, and usually by 20 minutes he's ready to leave. 30-minute session, he's still going, and over the sound system I played the hot dog song, which is the end of every Disney Mickey Mouse Disney show.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he was so happy because I was communicating in his language. And it was such a beautiful moment of connection, being heard and being seen. It really has evolved our relationship.
Beautiful, yeah.
And so it's interesting. What are some of your favorite moments from class of connection, success?
I think every class, and this speaks to the power of yoga for emotional regulation. I think every class I really get a lot of joy out of seeing the arc from beginning class to the end. So I am very welcoming, very neuroaffirming as far as, sometimes people picture a yoga class of, everybody is sitting there very quietly and still and serious. And it's probably not what you're going to see when you come into my yoga classes. At least at the beginning, there's going to be a lot of individuals doing their own style, their own flavor of regulating. Maybe they need to pace around the room. Maybe there's some physical stimming movements. Maybe there's some vocalization. Maybe there's lots and lots and lots and lots of questions. And that's all awesome. And that's all welcome. But the cool thing is I see as we get into the practice, all of those things start to fall away because the yoga itself is regulating. And everybody gets into this sort of co-regulation community state of calm and grounded and quiet. And by the end of class, you could hear a pin drop usually. So I love that every single class. And then I love when I hear stories about how that translates outside of class. So often parents, sometimes individuals themselves will tell me, the rest of the day on yoga day is a good day. Like there's a difference. There's a shift in that person's energy and regulation. And then I'll start to see these things generalize over time. So I'll share one of my favorite stories. He's an adult who I work with in a day program, and he's very ungrounded. He's sort of always moving, always pacing, always circling. And he was not participating in yoga in this particular day, but he had done yoga with me for years. And I'll show a little later if we want to try a little something together. Our go-to for meditation and breath work is, get up so you can see, heart and belly, hands on heart and belly. So we're getting some tactile feedback about our posture and our breath. And this individual was just spiraling. He was moving from space to space in the day program. He was sort of orbiting through yoga and out again. And there were a couple staff people kind of behind him like, come on, time to this, time to that, time to sit. And he eventually spiraled his way in to stand right next to me on my mat as I was teaching. And he just stood there. Took 3 or 4 deep breaths and then went with the staff person and did whatever he needed to do to move on with his day. And I didn't teach him that in that moment. I taught him that over years. And I think seeing me there was enough of a visual cue for him to, oh, I can do this. And that, I think, is the thing that I see translate and generalize most for my students is breath. Whether it's conscious breath or unconscious breath, through experience, learning that they can access something internal that's very calming and very grounding and very much always there for them in any situation. So I'm going to go one step further with that story and share something about Eve's son, Billy, who is now 36 and has gone through lots and lots and lots of medical challenges, gastrointestinal related stuff, seizure related stuff. He has unfortunately become very good at being a patient and very familiar with medical establishments, which are not generally calming or grounding spaces to be in. And Eve has shared with me, and she shares this story and many stories about Billy in our 30-hour teacher training. He can walk into a room with, bright fluorescent lights, beeping things, people standing around in gowns and masks, needle ready. And he can just lay down, breathe, stick out his arm, let's do this. Like, he's such a yogi through and through. And that's 20 years of, multiple days a week yoga practice. But it really has changed his being and created a strong neural pathway from dysregulation to calm and grounding that he can independently access in a really stressful situation. So I sort of feel like that's the master's degree, PhD yoga level that he's attained there. So.
And how empowering for Billy
Yeah.
to have some skills, because a lot of times his body must feel out of control when he's dysregulated, and to have something that can ground him, especially going to doctor's appointments where that is really can be scary and out of his control.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful skill that you've given him and his mom. So hats off. One more question. One of the things I see sometimes when the classes come in, they're very dysregulated and they can become more regulated. We now have, and sometimes that can look like calm and quiet. We have one class now, and they actually increase the noise level, and that now regulates them to the point where a lot of people, as well as myself, the director of the program, will look and say, oh dear, it's going to explode. But actually, because these athletes have chosen to add music, and it's something they now connect on, that one athlete has everyone bringing in a song, so then they create a playlist. So
I love
they're
that.
all empowered and engaged in the level of regulation, that it actually, what typically would cause dysregulation is causing regulation.
Yeah, and I think that, my thought on that is they feel safe and connected. I talk in my teacher training about polyvagal theory, and one of the states we can access in our nervous system is safe activation. And that's the state you need for fitness, and that's the state you need for any sort of athletics, or, you're having a dance party, you're up here, woo, in a social setting, but you're not out of control. You're safe, you're in control, there's boundaries, and that's a really beautiful state to be able to get students into. I think one of the reasons yoga could be potentially a good lead into fitness is because in fitness you are accessing, you're getting your heart rate up, you're breathing, and for some individuals, maybe the only time they've ever experienced that in their nervous system is dysregulation or fear or a meltdown. So how do we learn that that's a safe and okay feeling? How do we learn that that can even be a fun and empowering and awesome feeling? I think sometimes we start slow and build up. It sounds like your students were ready to build up and really took ownership of that and created some community around that. I love that.
Yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share about Voice Colors Yoga?
Yeah, I would love to give a quick little taste for people to try at home. I know that it's probably parents watching this podcast, and I know that all of us in the world today, particularly parents, could use a little calming and grounding. So I'd like to give a little 3-minute taste, and then if I can talk about a few things we have going on, that would be fabulous.
I love that. Sounds great.
So I want us to do this page here together. You do not need to be crisscross on the floor. You can be sitting in a chair or wherever you're sitting for the sitting hands to heart flow. When we breathe in, we're going to circle our arms up. When we breathe out, we'll bring our hands to heart. We'll do that 6 times. We'll do a little heart and belly breathing. So if you are in a chair like I am, I invite you to scooch towards the front of your chair so you can plant both feet flat on the floor. Sit up nice and tall. You'll need a little room for your arms by your sides. And we're just going to breathe in, circling the arms up. And breathe out, hands to heart. Arms up. Hands to heart. 4 more. 3. 2. 1 more. Big breath in. And out. And now let's place one hand on our hearts, one hand on our bellies, and you might even close your eyes or just look down towards the floor for a moment. Let your heart hand help you feel sitting tall, heart lifting up proud. Let your belly hand help you feel breathing right deep down so the belly moves out and in. Just feeling your body breathe. When we're feeling our bodies breathe, it is mindfulness in action. The breath is right here, right now. We're reminding ourselves that whatever else is going on, this inner rhythm is always here supporting us. Let's take one more really nice deep breath in, filling belly and chest. And let it go with a sigh. Beautiful. Thank you for doing that with me. I feel more grounded than I did before.
Me too. Thank you.
Yeah, breathing's powerful and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. 2-3 minutes, you can really shift your nervous system state. And I like that exercise too because it's something parents could easily do either on their own or with their children if they wanted to involve the family.
Like that.
Yeah. So, if your audience is interested in knowing more about voice colors, I'd like to refer you to the website voicecolors.org. That's Eve's nonprofit where you can learn about all the different things that we're doing. You can also click on the yoga tab and learn specifically about yoga classes and our upcoming trainings and things like that. A few things just I want people to know are happening. I know that we are basically neighbors right in Wellesley Hills.
Yep.
So if your audience is not familiar, I'm over at Stepping Stone Studios on Washington Street, which is pretty new. Stepping Stone downstairs has been there for many years, the acupuncture and massage clinic. Back in just October of last year, they took over upstairs. So we've got this huge, beautiful movement space, yoga, fitness, dance, Tai Chi, you name it. And that's the new home base for my Voice Colors yoga classes. So on Sundays from 11:30 to 12:30, I have a weekly class, which is for teens and adults, 14 and up. I have a new endeavor starting the last Friday of each month, which is coming up this Friday, called Friday Night Yoga Fun, which takes that structure. We do everything's on the schedule, everything's structured, but we're going to be doing yoga games. We're going to be doing creative new flows. We're going to be doing little explorations of other things like using the ballet bar, doing some Tai Chi, resistance bands, just different modalities to explore. That's also for teens and adults 14 and up. That's this coming Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. and the last Friday of each month. We're going to have a brand new class launching in May. I can't tell you the exact times yet. I think it's going to be a Sunday afternoon class for kids 10 to 15. That's not going to be with me. That's going to be with Margaret Noakes, one of our trained instructors. And our next 30-hour professional development training is going to be coming up September, October. So if anybody's interested in that, I don't even think the details for that are up on the website yet. We just confirmed the dates. It's going to be September 19th and 20th, and October 3rd and 4th. That's 2 weekends. But people are welcome to connect with me through the website. If you go to voicecolors.org, contact us and just click the interest in yoga box. That comes right to me. You can also reach out to me directly, Hannah at voicecolorsyoga.org. You have my info. You're welcome to give people my number, email, whatever, what have you. Oh, and one more thing to say. If anybody wants to try a class at Stepping Stones, you can take your first class for free.
Fabulous.
So I think the code is new student, but if that's wrong, just call the studio, say I'm a new student, and you'll definitely get a first class for free.
Fabulous. Well, we will link everything in the show notes and
Fabulous.
Website. And this has been fabulous. I love learning about, we've connected before, but I love being able to share this information because it's an amazing opportunity making fitness more accessible for everyone and successful and empowering and joyful and with connection. So I really appreciate what you're doing, Hannah.
And likewise. And I love that I love that we have so many offerings right in Wellesley for our local communities.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I look forward to coming and visiting, and thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for asking me. It's been an honor.
Thanks for tuning in to the IEP of Fitness. If this episode resonated with you, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who believes fitness should be accessible to everyone. Subscribe, leave a review, and join us as we keep redefining what's possible. One athlete, one plan, one connection at a time. Follow us on social media, Facebook at Able Fitness, Instagram Able Fitness for All, or visit www.ablfitness.org to learn more about the mission. Until next time, keep showing up, keep moving, and remember, fitness is more than exercise. It's a path to connection, confidence, and limitless power.